Memory transcription subject, Slanik, Venlo Space Corps. Date, Standardized Human Time, December 15, 2136. This was my human's first visit to Venlo Prime, and for that matter, to any alien world in a non-military capacity. Tyler and Onso tagged along on our escapade, along with Vernt and a miserable Burla. The Tillfish child's outburst unnerved me, until I remembered Marcel's words about people who were harmless, but different. Predator disease was propaganda, and these specific symptoms needed scientific evaluation. General Burla agreed to let the humans observe her child's behavior, which proved she was desperate for help. I could tell she would have preferred to return to Silas. Marcel's reminder that the Federation would torment Vernt might have been the wake-up call Burla needed. The Tillfish general was still hesitant to leave her son alone with a predator therapist. However, Vernt wasn't dropping his Humma obsession, and was making life difficult for his mother. An explanation was said to be coming, but the Terrans wished to stretch their legs before tackling serious matters. Marcel marveled at the circular designs of the roads, and even knelt to press a palm to the fall-absorbent sidewalks. Humans didn't stampede-proof their major cities, from what I'd seen on Earth. Meanwhile, Vernt rode on Tyler's shoulder. The blonde-haired soldier had warmed up to the little Tillfish. Faster. Hummas never get tired, the Tillfish child cheered. Run across whole planet. Burla flicked an antenna suspiciously. That's true enough. Care to explain, Marcel? The red-haired human smirked. I do not. You never do. Where are we even going? A good question. When I asked, he told me, out, I chimed in. Humans are irritatingly nonspecific. But trust me, don't ask about them not getting tired. Vernt played with Tyler's earlobe. Humma chase prey, forever? The Tillfish general stopped walking down the streets of Venlo Prime, as the viability of that guess dawned on her. The blonde-haired human stiffened, his canines gnawed at his lower lip, clearly discomfort. Marcel leapt up from admiring the sidewalk, and shot a desperate look at me for assistance. I slapped my tail across his nose dismissively, which earned a disbelieving scoff. Interesting, Onso muttered. That explains why our exchange program banned cardiovascular exercise. Tyler jumped in with a hurried subject change. Slanik, you asked where we're heading? Wonder Boy here wants to go to a Venlo rescue facility, after he's done making out with the sidewalk. I was just curious what it was made of. Marcel wringed his hands through his hair, eyes narrowed with indignation. It looked like obsidian. Come to think of it, I've never asked if Venlo Prime has volcanoes. We do. Most are dormant, I answered. Burla still looked rattled by Vernt's observation. Wait, what is a Venlo rescue facility? A place for exchange pairings that have gone wrong? Even your answers only raise more questions. Humans have been freeing people from Arxer cattle farms, starting with the Venlo. Mazel here, Tyler began. Not my name. It's 4 fucking syllables, man. Marcel Fraser. As I was saying, Mazel Fraser wants to tour the rescued Venlo's place of residence. Word is, the poor souls just found out we have some unfortunate eyes, it's pandemonium. All the places we could go, free on an alien planet, and he wants to be a good Samaritan. No one ordered you to come with me. Hell, I only asked Burla and the little man, because we're meeting with a friend, of sorts. She was going to help me explain a few things about Vernt. I am surprised he'd spend his leisure time on such serious matters, Burla responded. Oh, of course he would. Tyler pressed a hand to one side of his mouth, and leaned toward the Tillfish general conspiratorially. Marcel walks on water. His shit doesn't stink. Onso gave a devious ear flick. Don't you mean Mazel? Humma Mazel. Vernt agreed. Nulia will be so happy that your nickname is catching on, I said, in a sickly sweet voice. "It's so mature of you to accept it. You're a great adoptive father, Mazel." "Gah." Marcel's voice took on a bellowing quality, and he fixed a glare inches from my face. I was unimpressed by his charade, and his dazzling eyes had no effect on me. "I'm gonna have Monahan start the ship and leave without all of you." The yodel snorted. "Good luck with that. You're the new guy here. Also, if you think you can give the captain orders, you're in for a rude awakening. She doesn't fuck around. I like her." Anso's aggression was notable from the moment I met him. He was my first real contact with a yodel. It had seemed like a lousy joke when I heard that Tyler was accepted into an exchange program, but I realized how little censoring was needed with this species. Once, I would have been leery of this fact, but something about their flippancy made sense. Perhaps this young spacefaring race were the only ones who understood the violent undercurrent I'd unearthed in myself. I'm learning to trade predatory quips with the Terrans, just like Anso does. I certainly like him a lot more than Tyler's inexplicable pack mate, Sovlin. Interest flashed in Anso's eyes, as he noticed my neutral gaze on him. The yodel wrapped his tail around mine, and dragged me ahead of the predators. Despite Marcel's dawdling, we were almost at our destination. The current location of the rescue program was a gated institution, per the news broadcasts. Terran soldiers stood by the zigzagged entrance, and pointed their large assault rifles at the ground. "You're the first herbivore that's treated me as an equal. That hasn't called me primitive, uplift, or shown open disgust when I speak aggressively," Anso offered. I straightened my ears in surprise. I know what it's like to be disparaged, I guess. Tell you what. You don't call all Venlil weak and emotional, and I won't use any names against the yodel. Deal. But I reserve the right to insult you on a personal level. Likewise. I've been around humans longer than you, I'm learning. You're nothing like I thought you'd be, especially from what Tyler said about you. You're not put off by ribbing. Anso, I'm not the one to judge you for that. I probably have predator disease. Shut the fuck up. Never repeat that again. You hear me? You have no idea what they'll do to you. I'm not talking about humans. Your own people will bleed your soul. Okay, sorry. I'm just saying, without my instincts in the driver's seat, I've been more aggressive and unstable. Charging into battle, killing. Shit, you Venlil were probably all sorts of fired up before the feds got to you. I bet they went to great lengths to tame you. And you probably were a highly empathetic race from the start, but they distorted that. Pick the parts you like and discard the rest. They did that to the yodel? Yes. It's surprising, but nice, to have a non-human believe me. Thanks, Slanek. Anso broke off our chat, and Tyler raised a questioning eyebrow. Passive concern had lingered in the blonde human's gaze for the entire trip. The yodel must have shared something with him to elicit this response. The marsupial hissed in annoyance, when Tyler rubbed his shoulder comfortingly. Marcel picked up on the tense undercurrent, and narrowed his eyes at the duo. Is everything all right? My human asked. Anso bared his teeth. It's good that you left Dino on the ship. Of course it is. Burla shuddered, just thinking of the dog. I'd become partial to the domesticated predator, because of his docile behavior. We wouldn't want that thing terrorizing Venlil, at a cattle facility, no less. Rescue facility, Marcel corrected. Anso is right. Trust me, 2 humans are terrifying enough to look at, if you're not used to it. You've both been very nice to me and Vernt, but it's still a lot. Dogs would have Venlil catatonic on the floor, a public safety hazard. The yodel lashed his tail. What I meant is they'd burn Dino alive. Harder to do, with him on a ship. Why burn Doggy? Vernt asked. Because the dog doesn't fit with their narrative of predators being evil, and it should suffer for that. That's why they tried to slaughter the humans. Tyler nudged his friend. That's enough. Kids don't need to be told about death and suffering. You're right. I'm sorry. The UN guards at the entrance shared a glance, having heard enough of our conversation. They formed a human wall, moving closer together to block our entrance. We deposited ourselves at the facility gate, without any of us noticing the journey was complete. The red-haired officer showed them something on his holopad, and engaged in a series of hushed whispers with the guard. This is a sensitive situation, sir, with mass panic abounding, a guard said. The only names on this communique are you, the Venlil, and of Burla. Even with Ms. Rosario's invitation, such a large group is inadvisable. Marcel shook his head. Tyler and I would be happy to wear masks. Vernt is an actual child, and Anso's part of our crew. He can't be the only man left out, right? The problem is that these Venlil know what's under the masks now, sir. They think we're slavering predators who go mad for a lick of blood. When they see large groups of us, they think it's a hunting pack. I know, it's batshit crazy, but... Marcel. A female Terran with dark curls waved a hand at us, and flashed her teeth. Rosario, Sarah Rosario, the human astronaut, had invited us? Come on in, and bring your friends. I'm sure they won't be any trouble. The UN guards stepped to the side, and cleared a path. They took a few extra steps back as Burla passed, which led me to question the wisdom of bringing her here. What if bringing a tillfish around stressed-out Gaians caused them to panic too? This place was a powder keg already, we didn't need to tempt fate. The last thing I wanted was to disrupt crucial work done toward human acceptance. However, the Odyssey astronaut seemed unfazed by the tillfish. The glint in her eyes was a mix of wonder and curiosity. I could only imagine how giddy Sarah had been at first contact, partaking in mankind's first opportunity to examine extraterrestrial life. Marcel and I had encountered this influential human twice, throughout my instincts training, and during his painstaking recovery at the outpost. In our first meeting, she had asked if I wanted to seek a new partner, to ensure I wouldn't ditch him in his lowest moments. I think Sarah was pleased when she saw I cared about him as a person. She's probably used to being treated like a faceless monster. The renowned predator sped back to the facility, and our group followed without comment. I saw humans in opaque helmets wandering the hallways, their postures screamed exhaustion and frustration. On scattered security feeds, I could see Venlil rescues in lifeless stupors. Only a small percent were engaging with their caretakers, and those interactions were filled with tears and fears. Sarah? A timid voice came from a spare room, where I saw a Venlil poring over an interactive textbook. Her coarse pelt looked a bit ragged, though it was showing signs of recovery. This says your ancient theaters could house tens of thousands of people. Sarah quickened her pace. That's right, HFY. Curiously enough, that's still the size of many modern stadiums. You're telling me tens of thousands of humans, from primitive hunting days, could amass in a central venue, and none of them would kill each other? Correct. We can be entertained without any violence. That's remarkable. It's not that remarkable, Anso chimed in. The Venlil's head snapped up, as our posse filtered through the doorway. She yelped in alarm, and her mottled ears pinned back against her head. HFY couldn't seem to decide whether to be more afraid of scarred Marcel or towering Tyler. Her fear turned into a full-fledged scream, as both humans smiled. The rescue was gone in a flash, shimmying behind a bookcase. Sarah frowned. HFY's shy around newcomers. Still doesn't like humans she doesn't know, and has to take breaks even from being around me. It's progress though, I'm just happy she let me back into her life. I don't mean to be rude, but is there a reason we're here? I was told you could help with Vernt, Burla clicked. Yes. Why don't we discuss this out in the hall, and give HFY some space? The Terran scientist steered us back out into the hallway, finding an isolated corner to hold our discussion. She whispered something to Tyler, who flashed her a thumbs-up gesture. The blonde human took Vern over to a vending machine, and allowed him to play with the buttons. I eyed the receptacle with longing, wondering if the predators had imported potato chips. Burla sported a look of focused concern, worried about what the humans might say. Marcel says that predator disease encompasses thousands of unique conditions. That means humans likely have a narrower diagnosis for Vernt. I read what Dr. Bari sent me, and I agree with her advice, Sarah said in a low voice. As for why my help has been enlisted, I've interacted with aliens at length, so I understand your views on mental health as well as our own. Based on what we've seen, Vernt would benefit from an autism screening with a specialist. Autism? Burla echoed. That word didn't translate. Is it? What's the prognosis? What are you going to do with him? Well, not to confuse it with the umbrella term, predator disease, but autism itself is a spectrum. It can present with any combination of traits and behavior patterns. In general, simplistic terms, social difficulties and repetitive interests are the common denominator. Humans appear to be one of Vernt's special interests. Okay. How do I fix it? Please, you have to cure this interest. It doesn't work like that, Burla. You'd be better off finding ways to help Vernt deal with his unique challenges, rather than trying to change him. We're working with alien biology here, so there's no telling if your brains present the same as humans. But I have a pamphlet here, with an overview of common symptoms in our species. This can't be happening. You said you could cure him, Marcel. Marcel scratched his scalp. Vernt is most likely neurodivergent. He's not broken, he's just different. I know in your heart, you love him and accept him for who he is. You don't want him to change, you want him to be happy. And of course, again, we're judging this based on our criteria for our species. Sarah wagged her pointer finger, as though drilling the message into Burla's skull. With the Federation's take on mental health, it's difficult to get any accurate data sets. There's nothing to go off of, and no telling how your conditions mirror or diverge from ours. I listened in contemplative silence, and mulled over the qualities that Sarah had outlined. It was a shame that Burla's pamphlet was translated into the Tillfish lexicon. I couldn't read the full explanation. The scientist hadn't listed anything threatening to the herd as part of Vernt's condition. This sounded like a disconnect with social norms, and a lack of diversity in interests. Under Federation rule, would a harmless child like this little guy become an outcast, or worse? Awkwardness caused me to shuffle my paws. Sarah? Would you mind going into a bit of detail about the symptoms on the pamphlet? I'm curious. I'd like to have something in my head other than predator disease to fall back on. On Earth, most individuals on the spectrum have sensory issues, she replied. They often don't like change, even minor ones, like when Vernt was told he couldn't go to Earth. The good news is that Vernt doesn't seem to have the learning or speech impediments we see in the most severe forms. Burla twisted her antennae. Vernt is very bright. He soaks up knowledge like a sponge. I wish there was something I could do to help him though. There is. Be supportive of his interests and be patient with him. He may need help expressing his feelings appropriately, as well as distinguishing the feelings of others. He might have difficulty relating to his peers, so an accepting mother could lessen his loneliness and his struggles. Tyler approached the group with slow steps, and the conversation hushed at once. Vernt was picking at a package of Terran fruit snacks. Rather than stuffing a red one into his mandibles, the Tillfish child tried to cram it inside the blonde human's ear. Anso had a laugh at his partner, as the big guy swatted at his head. You fucking terror. Help. Tyler yelped. Marcel snickered, before prying Vernt away from the tall predator. My friend returned the fruit snacks, but was careful to keep the tillfish out of reach of his auditory canals. Sarah had a good-natured smirk on her face, though Burla seemed mortified by her son's mischief. The tillfish general scuttled forward. "I am so sorry, Tyler." "Oh, it's fine," my red-haired buddy jumped in. "Tyler's just not used to having anything inside his head. It must be nice for him to see what it's like." The blonde human raised his fist. "Sarah, can you ban him from the exchange program already? That's predatory behavior there." "Why would I ban the cutest duo in the whole program, even if I had that authority?" The Terran scientist flashed her teeth at me, and I ducked my head. "Seriously, Burla, read the pamphlet. I'll forward information to Marcel about a screening. The advice of a specialist is better than my general knowledge." "Thank you. I appreciate that you've been so kind to a random child. Anyone but predators would." "I don't need a reminder. The last 20 years of my life were like someone else lived them." "Fuck the Federation," Anso hissed. Sarah furrowed her brow. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. I'm fucking splendid, but I'm going to crack some Farsel's skull before I call it even." "Well then. I'll be happy to show you guys around the facility, and we could use the extra hands." Pause. "There will be no violent or anti-Federation talk around these Venlil, okay? Please, whatever you're going through, leave it at the door." The Yodel flicked his ears in acknowledgement, as all three humans surveyed him with worry. There must be something about Anso's backstory that only Tyler knew. From what I had gauged, the Federation diagnosed this marsupial with predator disease due to his aggression. He could have been me, after my reckless behavior on Silas. Anso was right when he told me not to use the words predator disease to refer to myself. Even if it was a Venlil's natural state, the humans were the only ones that understood that. I had thought about visiting my family while I was on Venlil Prime, and introducing them to Marcel. However, the fact was that I belonged with predators more than my own people now. The dark truth had been right in front of my face, every time I felt shame over my own transformation. My parents wouldn't recognize me anymore, they would reject me, if they realized what a violent man I had become. It took coming home to realize that the old Slanik was dead. There would be no return to normalcy. Memory transcription subject, Chief Hunter Isif, Arxer Dominion Sector Fleet. Date, Standardized Human Time, December 17, 2136. Proxima Centauri was the site of many human endeavors, which I had guessed due to its constant ship activity. The nearest stellar system to Sol had once been where the Zerulean hospital fleet amassed, to tend to an ailing Earth. Now, it was a bastion of human ships and drones. Rapid deployment was possible with a snap of their fingers. This went beyond the colony, which had temporary housing, and the hastily assembled stations around the worlds. The fleet that the Terrans were constructing was enormous, and ripe with novelties that I had never seen. Identifying these devices proved difficult, with how out-of-the-box humans could think. An excessive amount of patrollers prowled the system, ready to warp off to Earth or Venlil Prime at a notice. Anti-FTL buoys and other mines saturated the system. Even Oleg and Lisa were wowed by the sights in the viewport. Probes propelled by solar sails could maneuver without emissions. Asteroids had FTL drives strapped to them, and other debris had engines attached as well. Artificial rods and slabs of metal were ready to be slingshot at an enemy. There were other projectiles I failed to classify, though I was glad none deigned to attack me. Fascinating. I thought that visiting a system outside of Sol would lessen the military presence, I murmured. Felra's whiskers twitched. I had no clue they'd built so many ships, so fast. Our industrial power's something else in a war economy, huh? Oleg rubbed his eyes, as he strained to make out the details. Who knows what secret weapons the UN is ready to deploy? Maybe even those death rays they denied existed during the satellite wars. Lisa looked exasperated as ever. Oleg, the Grand Gulf meltdown and those fires were caused by hacking, not a death ray. And don't tell me, that's what they want you to think. But it is. The doseur giggled, as she paced back and forth across my console buttons. I couldn't believe how quickly the prey animal had grown accustomed to me. She seemed determined to help me. Felra had drilled me on every aspect of betterment, from their policy goals to the powers of a chief hunter. It didn't seem that there was a suitable way out, but I was hoping the United Nations would have some advice. I stiffened, as a blinking icon appeared on my data feed. There's a civilian transport approaching us, on an intercept course. Transmitting a looping message. Well? What's it say? Oleg prompted. Lisa crossed her arms. I hope it doesn't say, Isif is a fraud and a liar. If he isn't what he claims to be, we're guilty of dereliction of duty. Hey! Sci-Fi brought an entire fleet just to rescue me. Felra swept her tiny tail across the console, and bared her teeth in an aggressive gesture. If that's not honest and caring, what is? Besides, he hasn't eaten me yet. I would not dream of such a thing. My blood burned, as I recalled the last boarding party to breach my ship. Waltzing into the heart of Terran territory again wasn't my first option, but I was in hot water. There was no one else to turn to, except the lukewarm United Nations. Knowing General Jones, she'd been keeping tabs on me and expecting my visit. It seems she was able to keep Zhao from sicking the dogs on me. Our shuttle hasn't been attacked or confronted. I brought my vessel to a standstill, and tried to trust that Jones had the situation under control. Making my shuttle easy to breach should signal my compliance. A thunk passed through the hull, as the diplomatic transport latched into the side. After affirming that the airlock was sealed and affixed to the UN ship, I unlocked the entrance from our side. The two UN soldiers, whose formal names were Alexei Bondarenko and Lisa Reynolds, snapped upright. Their postures were as stiff as if someone jabbed a taser in their spines, and their flat palms looked glued to their foreheads. My maw locked with disdain, as I recognized the uniformed man flanking General Jones. She had the nerve to alert Secretary General Zhao of my movements, and bring him to greet me? Chief Hunter Isif, Earth's leader proclaimed. We're pleased to welcome you to Proxima Centauri. General Jones offered a smug smile. Everything you see here is only the tip of the iceberg. If the Kolshians think they can pick off our allies, one by one, and have us sit by and watch, they're in for a rough week. We can't defend all of our allied territory with the full might of Terra. But we're putting the finishing touches on our military spearhead. If we take the fight to them, they'll have to withdraw their forces, Zhao concluded. I chuckled with derision. You tried that tactic with Calsim, and he let his own world burn. You humans have a saying about doing the same thing, and expecting a different result, correct? Perhaps it is the definition of insanity. The difference is, the Kolshians care about control and defending their core worlds. Giznoll even knows this, from what you passed along to Jones. Zhao knows about me. The SEC Gen isn't blind, Isif, he's not a Fed die, Jones remarked. Five Eyes had some knowledge pertinent to the Dominion's upper echelons that we couldn't explain. Zhao put two and two together. As much as I'd like to chew her ear off for withholding intelligence, we can't afford to be divided. The Secretary General clasped his hands behind his back. Earth is fully committed to a total war. If we don't demolish the Federation's foundations, we can't guarantee our citizens' safety. Would you like to finish, Spymaster Jones? Gladly. In essence, we have no idea what we're walking into. The Kolshians' true strength, and any concealed weapons they have up their sleeves. They clearly believe that Alpha is impenetrable, and will need to pass through other species' space to get to them. They know our stealth tactics, so we have to fight. I narrowed my eyes. So you have to work your way up to the top. Precisely. The Farsal are the quiet conspirators, and got taken down a notch post-extermination fleet, but they still held out against an Arxer raid with minimal damage. They claimed to have committed their entire arsenal, yet that clearly couldn't be further from the truth. We can't discount their trickery either. That's what we're up against, the Secretary General said. We're calling this operation the Phoenix Fleet. Built from the ashes of Earth. Might I give you a personal tour, HFY, as a peace offering between us? Your friends are welcome to join. The fact was, with my cover in shambles, I needed the United Nations direction just to survive the next week. My interest in interacting with Zhao was negligible, but I offered a grudging nod. Oleg and Lisa were given permission to stand at ease, and relaxed their postures. Jones then sauntered up to the console, inputting a flight course that steered us around various sites. That glint in her eyes, she already knows the trouble I'm in. Betterment will want my head. Just to cement her disconcerting omniscience, Jones handed Oleg a pair of glasses. The male soldier looked taken aback, muttering something about matching his prescription. I was sure the fact that the UN was spying on me wouldn't embolden his conspiracies at all. Lisa was studying me, and I recalled her suggestion on the shuttle ride for me to defect. As easy as that escape may be, it wouldn't salvage my people's future. The two human soldiers annoyed me at first, but they were growing on me a tiny bit. They felt more authentic and representative of their kind than Jones or Zhao. With Jones especially, it felt like she was hoarding information as a weapon. The Arxer never plotted to the lengths that Terrans did, that's why, even with Felra's aid, I failed to recover my facade after saving Milo. As we glided into the Proxima system, Zhao gestured to a rocky planet. It appeared to be a testing ground for bombs, with occasional missile launches from the planet's surface too. Felra squeaked in alarm, spotting the humans practicing orbital raids. I agreed with the dosor, at least in pinpointing Earth's motives. There were no uses for long-range antimatter besides pure destruction. We are practicing precision strikes from above with smaller warheads, and with larger yield weapons too. The Secretary General pulled up some specs on his holopad, including a few cruise missiles that could be launched from airdropped platforms. Rest assured, my dosor comrade, there is a dual purpose for these exercises. Felra's ears quivered. You're practicing raiding Federation planets. Do you intend to let any survive? The United Nations is prepared to reciprocate hostile actions, after what happened on Milo. However, while civilians may wind up as collateral, they are not explicit targets. The smaller missiles are designed to contain the impact to areas and structures vital to military operations. Then why are you practicing with full-scale warheads? That is a training exercise. We're attempting to construct a ground intercept system, which can detonate orbital munitions before they hit the surface. It's the same idea as a missile defense system such as the Iron Dome. We're practicing how many planetary strikes we can intercept and improving our technology, Jones added. Also, with all the reverse engineering we've done, we have many new additions to our fleets. If I may. My shuttle continued on its charted course, peeling away from the testing ground. If Earth had been able to stop missiles before they impacted the ground, perhaps their losses would have been less severe. It was incredible how quickly the humans were improving. Their innovation was unsurpassed, and I could see the beginnings of a galactic superpower falling together. If the Terrans had a few months to get everything in order, this would all be a different story. They are a driven species, to come from their first FTL ship to this in months. Felra's fear scent still lingered in the air, but her eyes glistened with curiosity. I could only imagine how she felt, touring a Predator's killing devices after learning that her friend was an Arxer commander. To exacerbate our dilemma, she had watched me tear 4 Kolshians apart like it was nothing. I reminded myself to explain to the dosor that humans couldn't have done this without allied manufacturing power. Even in war preparations, they proved themselves a social species that outshone the Arxer. Are you okay? I whispered. This is a more up-close and personal view of human killing abilities than you likely intended. Felra chuckled, though the nerves seeped into her tone. I was curious about joining an exchange program, but this is more than I bargained for. I could do with a little more petting, and less bombs. Lisa coughed. I heard that. Careful what you wish for. The shuttle approached a drone hub, which appeared to include self-piloted hospital ships. The Terrans wouldn't need to divert any qualified helmsman to ferry the medics into battle. General Jones fiddled with my console, determining how to highlight items on the viewport. Her binocular eyes sparkled with pride. The drone program was her brainchild. Not only are we experimenting with varying drone sizes, and with automating certain functions even in manned ships, but we've also crafted mini-drones. The spymaster's rosy lips turned up, and she highlighted a handful of specks. Small enough to fit in my hand, and you can fly them like steered bullets. Good luck targeting something so tiny. My growl vibrated with appreciation. They could find chinks in armor and be rigged to explode. Or be used as scouts, alongside those solar sail probes you have. I'm glad to speak to someone who appreciates our craftsmanship. Tarva, bless her heart, gets this blank look in her eyes when I delve into military details, and General Cam just acts like a cheerleader. I'm not sure he knows what he's applauding. You've learned of our shield-breaking technology, with how we kicked Shaz's hind end with it. Zhao flashed his teeth, insufferable in his haughtiness. You see the drones in a simulated engagement, portside? They can take out enemy shields now, optimally, without human input. HRRR, shield breakers. That's all well and good until they turn that tactic back at you, yes? Element of surprise, gone. Keep watching. The ships they're firing at, look what happens during a shield outage. My pupils surveyed the viewport, and I parted my maw with curiosity. Felra climbed up onto my shoulder, getting a better view of the action. The human armaments were duking it out with phony weaponry, and that included a simulation of shield breaker input. They had accounted for such devices being used against them, after all. Terran craft that lost shields deployed a platform in front of them, which assembled itself into a wall. These fortifications provided an extra layer of defense for human ships, and could absorb lethal munitions being used against them. It was easy enough for the UN to shoot through the gaps, while the enemy's return fire couldn't thread the barrier. I wasn't sure if it was the simplicity or the far-reaching effects of their ingenuity that impressed me. That is clever, Zhao. Whenever you are done showing off, HRRR, I could use your help, I hissed through gritted teeth. The Secretary General glanced at me. The showing off has a point. We are aware of your troubles, but there's no walking back what happened at Milo. You should call for an open rebellion against the Dominion. Zhao is right. You have access to the rebel forums to share what you know, and you have the confidence of 2 sector fleets, Jones ascertained. Remind them of how well Earth fed them. We've shipped the non-sapient cattle, which we agreed to at Silas, to your headquarters. A start, if you're smart with it. That is madness. My roar reverberated throughout the ship, making every human but Jones flinch. We're not ready to fight betterment. Not without human help, which you won't give. Food won't fix that. It's the hierarchy of needs, ISIF. Feeding your people will free their focus to fight intelligently. You have access to fleet-wide communications. Perhaps you could offer sanctuary to defectives as well. What about human help, Jones? You refuse to fight a 2-front war. And you say it has a point, but you haven't expanded upon the purpose of your boasting either. The Secretary General pursed his lips. I'll answer this one. What I'm showing you here is that we have a fighting chance against the Federation. We're going to slay a giant, or at least try to. We can't offer you anything today, ISIF, but if we make it out in decent shape, humanity will aid you. That's not now. I'm supposed to campaign on hope and an empty promise? I don't make empty promises. Look at how far we've come. You must believe that we can end the Federation. You need to hold out, to keep yourself and your movement alive, until we finish this fight. Will you give it a shot? Felra twitched her whiskers, a sign of encouragement. If my docile friend thought this crackpot plan was worth the effort, then perhaps I could try to stand up to the might of betterment. An influential Arxer like myself was the leader figure a rebellion needed. I'd proven my might in battle, and I knew how to command fleets. The question was whether I could convince enough soldiers to join me. I guess we're going to try to overthrow the Dominion, I sighed, ignoring Felra's happy squeak. Humans, if you believe we could ever have a better future, as I do, you will help me. Any way you can. We will. Zhao extended his hand, and I gripped it reluctantly. Not to sound like Jones, but you can't trust anyone. Keeping you alive will be key. You know that, that's why you've wandered for weeks without an armed escort. Your point is? Perhaps you would trust human soldiers as your full-time guards? If Bondarenko and Reynolds here are up to the task, that is, I cannot give them that order in good faith. It's a dangerous assignment, beyond the scope of what any soldier signed up for. Oleg grinned. Being on the inside of spy insurrection shit, sir. I'm in. If it helps the United Nations, and swings the balance toward galactic peace, I'm in too, sir, Lisa responded. I narrowed my eyes. I could live with keeping them around. Thank you. And Felra, do you want to stay with the humans? It won't be safe, and there'll be lots of Arxer. War and death. You're not getting rid of me. I said we'd figure it out together. Someone's gotta teach you how to express your emotions, and who better than a special gal like me? Zhao wandered to my console. You've got yourself a crew then. Now, let's help you draft your statements, shall we? Unofficially, of course. If someone had told me before the cradles fall that I would start a rebellion with generals of pack predators, I would have thought it was absurd. That was without mentioning the fact that I had one of the smallest herbivores perched on my shoulder. Our unlikely posse began penning the words of sedition, and I wondered whether any Arxer would come to my side at all. The state of affairs in the galaxy was heating up in a hurry. I hoped that Zhao's bluster bore tangible results. My species' fate hinged on the human success against the Kolshians and the Farsal. For all the primates had accomplished, while staring down insurmountable odds, this was the stretch that would determine victors and losers. The military Earth had spawned in a matter of months needed to be enough to take down the Federation's kingpins, or all of us were doomed.